So good afternoon, everybody, and a warm welcome to today's webinar entitled How to Retire Early and with More Money. And this webinar is brought to you today by My Money Matters, working in conjunction with your employer. My name is Jade Green. I'm a financial education coach here at My Money Matters. A bit about my background. So I've worked in the pension industry for several years, and in that time I've helped thousands of members like yourself on how to retire and with more money. I've been fortunate enough to see the real difference that shared cost AVCs can make to a person's future, and I really look forward to helping you all today. So just some housekeeping. So the contents of this webinar is provided for educational purposes only and does not constitute as financial advice. The information given is based on our current understanding of taxation, legislation and regulations. Any levels and bases of and release from taxation are subject to change. Tax treatment is based on individual circumstances, so may be subject to change in the future. Fund values can rise as well as fall, so past performance should not be used as a guide to future performance. And finally, this webinar may be recorded for training and compliance purposes. So you should see these icons in the top right-hand corner of your screen. You can write any questions that you may have here. I'll look through the questions at the end and answer as many as possible in the time that we have left. I would just say though, if you can, please do try and keep the questions in relation to the content covered today. And please avoid putting any personal information here as it may be visible to everybody. We do have a variety of other webinars on our platform, which you can find more details for on the My Money Matters website. Okay, so what are we going to be discussing today? So today we're going to be looking at a case study of a local government employee named Sarah, and should she want to retire early, the impact that that has on her main local government pension scheme benefits. The options available to you should you also want to retire early. The fantastic and unique opportunity that you have access to, which is exclusive to those members within LGPS, how the shared cost AVC actually works, the reality of how this can help you retire with more money, and finally, the next steps that you can take if you're not already contributing to the shared cost AVC, or if you wish to amend those. Okay, so let me introduce you to a case study about Sarah. So Sarah's an employee of the local government pension scheme, and her normal retirement age is 67, as her normal pension age is now linked to her state pension age. When she gets to 67, her estimated final salary is around £29,000. She's been in the scheme a while, so has built up membership in all areas of the scheme. And as many of you will be aware, the scheme has changed multiple times over the years. So let's just go through what Sarah's built up in those multiple sections of the scheme. So the first section is the final salary 80th section, which was in operation until the 31st of March 2009. Basically, for every full year of membership within this section, you'll have accrued a pension equivalent to 1/80th of your final salary. Sarah only had a year's service in this section, so that 1/80th would give her an annual pension of £393. And it's also worth mentioning that if you have service in this section, then you'd have built up an automatic tax-free lump sum. And for Sarah, this was £1,106. Sarah also had 6 years of membership in the final salary 1/60th section, and this ran between the 1st of April 2009 to the 31st of March 2015. It's still calculated based on final salary, but it's calculated at 1/60th instead of 1/80th. So in this section, you'd have built up more for your annual pension. If you can imagine a cake cut into 60 slices, then you would have more proportion than one cut into 80. It's important to note that there is no automatic tax-free lump sum included in this section. So Sarah was working full-time over the full 6 years that this section was in operation, and therefore built up the full 6 years of membership. So that's 6/60ths of her final salary in this section, which amounted to £3,142 of pension income per year. Now, the vast majority of Sarah's pension was built up in the career average revalued earnings section. So everybody here today, no matter when you joined, will have service in this section. And this section came into effect from the 1st of April 2015. So you build up 1/49th of your salary as pensionable income in that year for when you retire. For example, if your salary is £49,000, then 1,000 would be banked as pensionable income. And the difference between final salary and care is care takes each section in isolation when calculating retirement benefits. The final salary sections are based off the salary at the point of retirement. And it is important to note that, as the name suggests, the care section is revalued on a yearly basis based on current consumer price index to ensure that that 1/49th that you are banking increases in line with inflation. So Sarah ended up with 18 years in the care section, so that equated to £10,742. So it's all of these sections added together with 25 years membership spanning all three sections of the scheme that equal an annual pension of £14,277 and a tax-free lump sum of £1,106. Now, the lump sum is only small as she only had a year's service in that 80th section. And those of you here today that have more service in the 80th section, you will have a much larger automatic lump sum typically. So Sarah is also going to be entitled to a state pension on top of this too. So Sarah needs to ask herself, will this amount of pension income be enough for her to afford the retirement that she desires? Perhaps with some nice holidays or a new kitchen. And please remember that the figures that we've just gone through assume that Sarah will be working right up until her state pension age of 67. I can imagine for a lot of us, including myself, don't want to work until 67, and Sarah's no different. So the next slide is going to show the impact of Sarah retiring early. So Sarah's decided that she doesn't want to work until 67 and she wants to retire instead at age 64. She wants to retire earlier to allow herself to enjoy the things in life that are important to her, such as spending more time with her family or going on more holidays. Now, you think just going 3 years earlier wouldn't have too much of an impact on Sarah's annual pension of £14,277, because when you think about it, it is only 36 paydays earlier. Well, in fact, in Sarah retiring just 3 years early and accessing her local government pension at 64, it wipes out over £4,000 of her annual pension, which is a massive hit for her to take. So why then is there such a big hit to Sarah's pension? Well, first of all, the numbers of years in the pension scheme is reduced. So Sarah is going to be missing out on 3/49ths of her annual pension by going just 3 years earlier. And secondly, because the LGPS will now apply an actuarial reduction to her pension amount, as the pension fund now know that they must pay Sarah that pension for 3 years longer than they had anticipated, because she's going at 64 versus 67. So it's that double whammy then of her missing out on years service and the actuarial reduction to her pension. And remember that it's not just 1 year that she must live with this reduction, but is in fact the rest of her life. Sarah could have a long and fruitful retirement of 20 to 25 years, with people now living longer than ever. So Sarah, over that time, could be missing out on around £100,000 during her retirement for opting to leave just 36 paydays earlier. You must also consider that Sarah will not reach her state pension age for another 3 years. So that £10,253 will be her only source of income until her state pension kicks in 3 years later. So have a think. Could you survive on that level of income? But also, how comfortably would you enjoy your retirement at that level of income? Some of you here today may think that you'd like to retire early, but how do you feel about it having such a significant impact on your pension? How important is it for you to be able to retire early? And if it is important, then are you prepared to do some additional savings to make that a reality? So Sarah's got a bit of a problem here. She wants to retire at 64, but she doesn't like the idea of her pension income taking such a hit. So Sarah does some research on what would allow her to take some extra tax-free cash so she can soften the blow of having a lower annual pension income and help her bridge that income gap of £4,024. Now, whatever pension scheme you belong to in the UK, you can currently take up to 25% as a tax-free cash lump sum. Who doesn't like tax-free cash? Now, you can choose to exchange some of your yearly local government pension for tax-free cash. And the way that this works in the LGPS is with an exchange rate of 1 to 12, meaning for every £1 of pension you give up, you get £12 of tax-free cash. But in reality, if you wanted to increase your local government tax-free lump sum by £12,000, then you'd be losing a yearly pension of £1,000 every year for the rest of your retirement. Now, if you think of the average life expectancy and how long you plan to be around into your retirement, then this is perhaps not such a good deal. So that £1 of yearly pension you could be giving up is actually worth so much more. So not only giving up that every year until you die, but crucially it's index linked. So that £1's not going to stay at £1, but it's going to keep going up and up by whatever consumer price index is. And if you leave that £1 alone, then in all likelihood you'll be very glad that you made that decision. We've seen in recent years how important those inflation increases can really be. Now, the only way that you might see commutation as a good deal is if unfortunately you're not going to be around very long into your retirement to enjoy those higher monthly pension amounts. And one of the main benefits of the shared cost AVC is the potential to take it all back out as a tax-free cash lump sum without it having any impact on your main local government pension. The shared cost AVC arrangement, and make no mistake that the shared cost AVC really is one of the best arrangements available to you to enable you to keep your finances as tax efficient as possible whilst allowing you to fund that lifestyle for when you retire. So just to quickly cover over some of the key benefits of the shared cost AVC arrangement then. So the shared cost AVC is an extra pot of money that sits alongside your main LGPS benefits, and it's a top-up service for your local government pension scheme. But what's unique about this employer opportunity available to you? So you could use the shared cost AVC as a means to give yourself a bigger tax-free lump sum in retirement, and not necessarily at the expense of your valuable index-linked local government pension paid for life. Now, the LGPS is the only pension scheme that you can currently take the whole AVC back as a tax-free cash lump sum. People with a teacher's or NHS pension do not have the fantastic opportunity available to them that you do. Now, there are a couple of caveats to that, one being that you need to take the AVC at the same time as you take your local government pension, and there is a limit to how much tax-free cash that you can take. Now, the maximum amount that you can take back all tax-free will depend on the size of your whole pension pot, but the rule is that you can take your whole AVC back as a tax-free cash lump sum, as long as your AVC pot is within 25% of the total value of your LGPS benefits. Now, if you don't know what this is, then please don't worry. This is something that us financial education coaches can help you with here at My Money Matters, and I will explain how to do so at the end. And the great thing about the shared cost AVC is the flexibility. You have the complete freedom to increase or decrease your contributions as you choose, be it wanting to pay in larger lump sums towards the end of the tax year to perhaps bring down your tax liability, or just have the peace of mind that you are able to adjust your contributions should circumstances change. If your car unexpectedly fails its MOT and you need that extra cash in your net take-home pay for that month, you can change your payments down and increase your contributions back up as you have the means and affordability to do so. Now, as people with an LGPS pension can have an AVC, not every employer is offering this on a shared cost basis. So the fact that your employer does is fantastic news for you, because not only are you getting tax relief on your contributions, but you are also saving on national insurance as well. So if you're an intermediate rate taxpayer in Scotland paying tax at 21% and national insurance at 8%, then you can see that as 29% of relief. And remember that as the AVC contributions are taken from your salary, any tax savings you are making are applied automatically. So there's no need to complete any confusing tax returns or self-assessment forms. It's all hassle-free. So this is a double tax break. And remember that you save on tax and national insurance. And when you get to that point in your life when you want to access the AVC in retirement, you have an array of options available to you. One of the most tax efficient options being taking it all completely back as tax-free cash. Now, you will not find this anywhere else in the public sector. So let's take this a step further then and look at an example of the potential savings that you could be making with this employee benefit. Supposing you wanted to put £250 into a shared cost AVC and you are an intermediate rate taxpayer, then how much do you think it would cost you? Well, actually, it's going to cost you just over £178 from your net take home pay. So that saving of £72 is purely based on those tax and national insurance savings that you're making. For an equivalent return at a high street, either in a bank, building society, credit union, or ISA, you would need an equivalent instant return at 39, nearly 40%. And this is what your employer has set up for you, the ability to save money from your salary, allowing you to save in an extremely tax efficient way. Now, to add some clarification to that, this is a pension vehicle, so you can't pull funds out whenever you feel like it. The soonest that you can access the shared cost ABC is linked to the current minimum retirement age that is set by the government at 55. So in this example, you'd put £250 onto the shared cost AVC application online, despite the net cost being significantly less. And this is a highly efficient way of saving for your retirement. So let's take this a step further and introduce you to a case study about Joe. So Joe earns £30,000 a year and is therefore an intermediate rate taxpayer. Now, the only contribution Joe is effectively making towards his future is his LGPS contributions. And you'll see on his payslip that his contribution amounts to around £141 per month. Joe is paying tax at just over £261 and national insurance at just over £116, leaving his take-home pay at the end of the month to just over £1,980. Now, Joe's been made aware of the fantastic employee benefit and he realises that he may need to better prepare for his future. So he explores the option of contributing £250 into the shared cost ABC to boost and enhance his retirement benefits. As a result, his payslip now looks like this. Now, the first thing you'll notice is Joe's gross monthly salary has gone from £2,500 to £2,251. Now, you might be thinking, well, this wasn't a smart move, or is he going to damage his valuable local government pension scheme? And the answer to that question simply is a no. So you can see that his contribution remains the same, and for any pay rises, etc., his employer will use his pre-sacrifice salary of £30,000. Now, the nature of the shared cost salary sacrifice scheme means that the contribution needs to be deducted on a shared cost basis. So Joe makes a nominal/employee contribution of £1, and on that contribution, Joe only receives tax relief. The employer then deducts the outstanding £249 from his gross salary and pays that directly to the AVC provider. And on that contribution, Joe receives tax and national insurance relief. Now, don't get too bogged down with the complexities of this. All that you need to know is the whole contribution of £250 goes into the AVC pot, and it is just split this way on the payslip to enable you to make those tax and national insurance savings. So to summarise, Joe's put £250 into a shared cost AVC pot and has in fact only cost him just over £179 from his net take-home pay. And this is all thanks to those tax and national insurance savings. And I think the figures here really speak for themselves. So how does the shared cost AVC actually work then? So the only way that you can pay into the shared cost AVC is through your monthly salary each month from the local government. So effectively every payday between now and when you retire is an opportunity for you to make those savings and boost for your retirement options. Now, if you're retiring in 5 years' time, then effectively you have 60 opportunities to make a difference. And if you're as lucky to have retirement as a year away for you, then you have around 12 opportunities and so forth. And the shared cost AVC is very flexible in that what I was saying earlier, you can reduce it right down to the minimum of £2 per month and increase it up to your personal maximum whenever you need through our website or customer services. And the money that you contribute to the shared cost AVC arrangement is invested. So the idea is that as well as getting those tax and national insurance savings, you could also see some investment growth too. Now, the companies responsible for investing that money will depend on your employer, but for the vast majority of you, it will be Prudential. But it could also be Standard Life, Legal in General, or Clerical Medical, or you might have the choice between the two. And it is those various different local government pension funds which decide on which pension companies they want to work with. However, you, the members, have complete control over where that pot of money is invested. So effectively, what you're going to be presented with is a range of investment funds that vary in risk, ranging from minimal risk to high risk. And you can split the funds across a range of different risk levels if you wish. And our application form does elaborate on this. Now, your organisation may have selected a default fund for you for those people that struggle with investments or perhaps don't want the responsibility. And if they have selected one for you, then it will be pre-populated on the application form. Now, it's not a recommendation anyway, but it's there as a safety net should you need it. You would also normally have lifestyle options. So these are aimed at long-term growth, and the AVC provider changes the fund down in risk level the closer that you get to your desired retirement age typically. Usually, the closer you are to your desired retirement age, the lower the risk of these investments in these lifestyle options. And the usual charges you should expect to pay are annual management charges to the AVC provider, which for Prudential are around 0.5 to 1%, and for the other providers, slightly in excess of 1%. But the fund guide for your provider will contain more details on this. And that flexibility and control extends into your retirement too. You could use the money that you've built up in an AVC as a means to give yourself other income in retirement by utilising it as a monthly pension income. But remember, as you are members of the LGPS, you have this unique opportunity whereby you could simply take the AVC pot of money that you've built up all back as a tax-free cash lump sum. So let's look at the reality of early retirement. We know that most people would want to retire earlier than their state pension age, but how are AVCs going to help you do that? So let's look at Sarah again. So Sarah gets to 64 and she accepts that her benefits will be lower and go from £14,277 to £10,253 because she'll have fewer years in the scheme and a lower amount still due to those actuarial reductions. So what Sarah will look to do is pay into her AVCs, save on tax, save on national insurance, and take her AVC back as a tax-free cash lump sum. Sarah now has a tax-free cash lump sum to help her bridge the income gap between retiring early and getting to a state pension age at 67. She now has a tax-free lump sum to do the things that she wants to do and the time and the good health to do them, whether that is to go on more holidays, replacing a car, or spending more time with her family. She now has that control. Now, that last example looked at Sarah taking a whole AVC pot along with her GPS benefits at age 64. Now, it has to be said that this is definitely the most popular way to do it. But what if Sarah wants to retire 3 years earlier at age 64, live off her AVC, and not access her local government pension until state pension age? This avoids those actuarial reductions on her local government pension scheme. So essentially live off her AVC until she's ready to take her local government and state pension benefits at 67. So we can see here that Sarah has managed to accumulate a fairly sizable AVC pot amounting to £48,000. Now, the reason that we've used this assumption will become clearer in a moment, but £48,000 is a very obtainable figure for Sarah. So she was making a monthly AVC contribution of £250 for around 13 years with an industry standard assumed net growth rate of 3%. Then Sarah, in all likelihood, will have built up an AVC pot in and around that £48,000 figure. So Sarah gets to age 64 and she stops work. She leaves her main local government pension to avoid those actuarial reductions, and she takes her AVC to live off between the ages of 64 and 67 to bridge the gap between accessing her LGPS and state pension benefits. And this is where Sarah gets clever about how she's accessing the money, and also why it's become a bit clearer as to why Sarah has chosen to save £48,000 into her ABC pot. So essentially what Sarah does is withdraws £16,000 in the first year of leaving work at age 64. Now, when Sarah takes her £16,000 withdrawal from her personal pension, 25% of it is tax-free. So £4,000 in Sarah's case is tax-free. And remember that you can actually earn a certain amount of money each tax year before you start paying income tax on it. And this is called the personal allowance. And at the moment, the standard personal allowance is £12,570 that the UK government will allow you to earn before you pay any income tax on it. So once she takes £4,000 withdrawal, she's then left with £12,000. And in Sarah's case, she's not in receipt of any other forms of income. So that £12,000 can also be taken tax-free retrospectively. So Sarah does this exact same thing for 3 years. So at age 64, 65 and 66. So £4,000 is tax-free automatically, and then that remaining £12,000 falls under her personal allowance limit. So she can retrospectively claim the tax that she may pay on that as well. And this means that her AVC pot has allowed her to retire 3 years early at age 64 by bridging that gap between leaving work and accessing her main local government and state pension pot. So essentially, the bigger the AVC pot, the more that you can bridge the gap to retire early. She then accesses her main local government pension at 67 with no actuarial reductions to those benefits. And this equates to £12,905, which is significantly more than the £10,253 that she would have had she have accessed those benefits earlier at age 64. Now, for anybody wondering, well, why is that pension not that £14,000 figure? And that's because although she's not faced those actuarial reductions to her benefits for getting them early, she has lost 3 years' service in the scheme. So she's missed out on 3/49ths of contributions that she would have made had she have continued to work. Now, with both of these examples, you can see that essentially the more that you save towards your shared cost AVC pot, the more options that you have in terms of retiring and in regards to retiring earlier and with more money. So let's just do a quick shared cost AVC summary. So the LGPS is the only public sector scheme that allows you to save in this way. Your employer is offering this to you as an employee benefit. You save on income tax and national insurance on the way in and get extremely tax efficient options available to you on the way out. So, can you think of a better money saving opportunity available to support you in your retirement? Now, as always, there are some conditions and considerations to be aware of. So firstly, you must be an active member of the LGPS to pay into shared cost AVCs. And remember that you do not damage your main pension scheme by paying into this. You cannot pay an amount that would take you below the minimum living wage requirements, but don't worry, as this will be checked by your payroll once you've submitted your application anyways. And there is also a calculator on our platform called the Maximum Calculator that will outline the most that you can personally put into shared cost AVCs to meet the relevant criteria. You can't go below the lower earnings limit of £6,396. You then have the general government restrictions of standard annual allowance, which is the maximum the government will let you put into pension vehicles each year and get tax relief on. And that stands at your salary, or if you earn £60,000 or above, £60,000 per annum. And this includes your main scheme benefits, AVCs, and any personal pensions that you may have. Now, this may have been reduced to £10,000 per year if you've drawn down on similar defined contribution pensions in recent years. And then the pension administrators for those benefits will have needed to notify you in writing that you have triggered your money purchase annual allowance. Now, if you're unsure on this, then I recommend reaching out to those pension administrators accordingly and querying this with them. And finally, on this section, you've got the lifetime allowance, which is the most that you could have accrued in a pension and not incurred a tax charge on, and it was at just over £1 million. However, the lifetime allowance charge has been revoked currently in this financial year, so it doesn't need to be a consideration at the moment, and it is proposed to be scrapped in this year of 2024. However, the maximum amount of tax-free cash that you can withdraw from pensions is currently frozen at 25% of the old lifetime allowance figure, and that's £268,275. You can adjust that contribution whenever you'd like by logging into the My Money Matters platform or contacting our customer services. And one of the great things about the shared cost AVC is the flexibility to do so. And finally, opting out / leaving your employer would result in your AVC pot stopping. In this event, your shared cost AVC pot would remain invested and would be available to provide you with additional benefits upon you taking retirement. So you should see the shared cost AVC as a way to enhance your pension so you can have a more fruitful retirement and achieve those retirement goals that you may have. So if you're interested and you're not already doing AVCs, then it is a new application form. And you can do that by logging into the My Money Matters platform, completing the relevant application form, and your participation in the scheme should go from the next available payroll run once it has been authorised by your employer. Now, if you'd like to ask me a question, please pop it in the Q&A box now, as there is a bit of a lag between when you actually write the questions and when I'm able to view them. If you're already making contributions to the shared cost AVC and you would like to amend those in any way, you can do that again by logging into the My Money Matters platform, entering your new desired contribution, and then it goes to your payroll for approval, and you should see the relevant amended contribution come out in the next available payroll run. Or we can appreciate that some people may need some extra support on this. And one way that we offer you further support is we offer free one-to-one consultations via Microsoft Teams with myself or my other financial education coaches. And this is where we can go through the following things with you. So we can calculate your maximum AVC allowable as a tax-free lump sum. We can calculate your maximum contribution, and we can explain your investment options. And we'd be absolutely delighted to help you with that. Now, there is some homework required before that meeting, so if you could please bring along your latest LGPS statement with a projection of your desired retirement age, so it doesn't need to be your normal pension age, the age that you'd actually like to take those benefits. Now, you can do that through your main scheme pension administrators, typically online. They have some online platform where you can use the projector, or sometimes called a calculator, on there, but if not, then you would need to request that from them directly. An up-to-date valuation of your AVC pot if you already have one and you're able to, and an up-to-date payslip. And please note there will be no financial or investment advice available or given in these sessions. Now, if you just have a quick question on the shared cost AVC and you don't want a meeting for any reason, then our customer services team are very knowledgeable. I'll pop their details on the screen now for you as well. So if you need further support from customer services today, then please see their details available on the screen, and you can contact them via the various channels in which they are available, and they are typically open between 8:30 a.m. and 5:30 p.m. Monday to Friday. I'm now going to have a read through and see if I've been asked any questions. Okay, so I don't seem to have had any questions. That's totally fine. So I just wanted to leave you all with this. I hope that you've enjoyed today's webinar and have taken away from it what a special opportunity you have to access the fantastic employee benefit that is the Shared Cost Salary Sacrifice AVC. The Shared Cost AVC allows you to save on tax and national insurance on the way in and get extremely tax-efficient options available to you on the way out, whilst also offering you a brilliant way to help you mitigate some of your tax liability. And by utilising this scheme, you'll know at retirement that you have done everything possible to ensure that that retirement lifestyle is as comfortable as possible. So they say that knowledge is power, so I hope I have armed you all with the knowledge to take action and get those shared cost AVC applications done. So many thanks for your time, everybody. Have a great rest of your day. Goodbye.